Hi guys, don't you just want to learn how to make my Scottish bread? It's actually not mine. My husband and I visited Scotland back in 2017 and we stayed at all Airbnbs, well, mostly Airbnbs. One of our Airbnb hosts, every morning he would make this really delicious, hearty, rustic like yeast bread, and it was so good. And he made it in a bread machine, and that's actually why I bought a bread machine, because I loved his bread so much. And I asked him for the recipe, and when I came home I bought a bread machine, and I make it almost whenever we run out of bread. I always make another loaf. I haven't bought bread from the store since 2017 because I love this bread so much. So I'm going to show you the recipe, and it's a little, it might not be what you're used to, especially if you're living in America, because we measure everything in like cups and everything. And in Scotland, they don't measure by cups, they measure in milliliters and grams. And it's actually really cool to do it that way, because all you need is a kitchen scale and your bread pan that goes in your bread machine, or a mixing bowl as well. You could use that too. But if you just take a kitchen scale and zero it out, and then add your ingredients each time and zero the scale out each time in between ingredients, then you don't have to wash any extra utensils. Okay, so here is my recipe. You want to probably pause this video and screenshot it. Now, if you look in the first column at the top, it says 1.5. That means that will make a 1.5 pound loaf. And then obviously the next column is 2.0. That means it'll make a 2-pound loaf of bread. But these are all in milliliters, which if you're using a kitchen scale, you're going to use grams. So yeah, so all right. So just to talk you through, in case you can't read my handwriting, that the first ingredient is water. You want 370 milliliters or 370 grams of water. And, you know, I don't always have like when I'm measuring stuff out, I don't always get the measurements absolutely perfect, but you just want to like make sure that you're close to these measurements and you'll be fine. The next thing is oil, 50 milliliters or 50 grams. Then the next 4 ingredients: pumpkin, sunflower, sesame, and poppy. Those are seeds, which, you know, at the grocery store, very often pumpkin seeds are called pepitas. So if you come across pepitas, that's the same thing as pumpkin seeds. But you want 75 grams of pumpkin seeds, 75 grams of sunflower seeds, and then 30 grams of sesame seeds, 30 grams of poppy seeds. Now, there's times when I don't have sesame or poppy seeds, or like I've also used chia seeds, I've used flax seeds. It really doesn't matter. It's up to you what seeds you want to add. But if you do want to add them, those are good measurements to use. All right, then you want 30 grams of sugar, 5 grams of salt, and then 300 grams of white flour, 200 grams of wheat flour, and then 10 grams of yeast. And just like the seeds, I don't always use these exact measurements of white flour and wheat. I mostly just make sure I use 500 grams total of some kind of wheat or some kind of combination of wheat. I've even done things like I will add 200 grams of white flour, 200 grams of wheat flour, and then I use that last 100 grams for some other ingredient. Like if you've been watching my videos lately, I think I did a bread video where I substituted corn flour for that 100 gram. I've also used oatmeal, you know, so you can be kind of creative, but 500 grams of some kind of flour combination is a good idea. Barley, that's another nice thing to use, whatever. So that's where you can kind of play with the recipe here, but you want to make sure that you stay pretty close to 30 grams of sugar and 5 grams of salt, because any more sugar and your bread is going to rise too much, and any more salt, the salt is what kills the yeast. So it stops it from making the bread rise. So anyways, that's really, if you're going to be picky about an ingredient, make sure you stay pretty close to the sugar and salt and the yeast. All right, so here's my bread dough that was making. It takes about an hour and a half to make bread dough in my bread machine. And I put it in my glass pan. And if you've watched my other bread making videos, you know what I'm doing here. I have a cast iron pizza pan on the bottom, and then a medium-sized cast iron skillet on top. And what I do is I sandwich my bread pan in between. If you can see, right in between there is a clear bread pan. So this works really well for me. The cast iron keeps everything hot. Oh, here's a little fun fact too, because if you watched my first, when I made popcorn bread, that I researched it, and all the solar oven people that I came across said that you need to add an egg into your bread just in case the sun goes behind a cloud and your temperature drops. That eggs tend to keep the dough more even and you don't have to worry about your bread dropping. Well, if you notice in this recipe, there's no egg. And this was where I was wanting to kind of challenge that theory by not using an egg. And the reason is because anytime you add animal products into a baked item, you decrease the shelf life. And I like to keep my bread out of the refrigerator I keep it in a glass cake plate. I keep it out, and I don't like it going bad too quickly. So yeah, you don't need to add an egg as long as you have cast iron. I'm pretty sure that is all you need to keep your temperature regular. And because once cast iron gets hot, it stays hot for a long time. So even if the sun goes behind a cloud, there's not going to be so much heat loss if you use cast iron. All right, so I think what happened here, you can see the bread is cooked, but it's like overflowing the pan. I think what happened is I added too much yeast. I think what happened is that my kitchen scale needs a new battery, because as I was adding, you can see yeast is the last thing on the list. I was adding yeast and like the scale wasn't reading, and I was like, surely I'm adding too much yeast, but it just wasn't picking up the reading on the scale. And so I think I need to change the battery in my scale because I added too much yeast. I'm pretty sure that's what happened here, because that's never happened before. So anyways, I cut all that excess off, and you can see it cooked really nicely. I have to say, if you use a Haynes 2.0, because of how it's designed very efficiently compared to other solar ovens. I've talked about this before. Other solar ovens are kind of like a big box, and they have these wings coming off at the top, and they cook a lot more like a slow cooker. But the Haynes 2.0, it actually is like a bowl shape. So, and it's all reflective, every single part of it. So I think because of that, it is able to cook things more quickly. And so I say that to say, if you look up other solar oven recipes, they tell you that it takes 2 hours to cook a loaf of bread. And I'm finding that an hour and a half is the sweet spot for bread. And you can see this is really brown on the top. That's because I let it stay in there for another 10 or 20 minutes. So yeah, it would have been done at an hour and a half, but I just wanted to make sure that it was baked well. But here's what it looked like, and you can see after I cut all that ugly part off, it looks really nice and it's good. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy using this recipe, and you don't actually even need to use it in a solar oven. You can use it in a regular bread machine, or use it to make bread in your oven. It's just a really good all-around recipe for bread, and it's really good toasted with butter. in the morning. It makes really good French toast. It's great to toast it and put it in that soup that I've made in past videos. So it's very utilitarian and delicious. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this. Please return soon, as I will be making more things in my solar oven, and you won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching. Bye.